Howdy, I'm Clint Walker and you're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Clint, and I'm Randy Hansen. In today's World News headlines, Russia says 50,000 rally over death of Putin critic Boris Nemtsov. And Kerry in Geneva for Ukraine talks as conflict toll tops 6,000. And Iraq launches operation to retake Tikrit from ISIS. And Syrian opposition groups reject UN ceasefire plan, and ISIS frees 21 Christians, over 200 remain captive, and Netanyahu arrives in D.C. ahead of speech to Congress. Palestinians mark anniversaries of Goldstein's massacre and Berlin protest, and Egyptian court declares Hamas a terrorist group. And Venezuela unveils new restrictions on U.S. diplomats and politicians. And Cuba and U.S. hold second round of talks. And Uruguay swears in new leader replacing world's poorest president. And Bangladeshis honor slain U.S.-born blogger. And Congress passes measure to fund DHS for 1 week. And LAPD shooting of homeless man caught on video. And dozens rally against Chicago police black site. GVTV News is broadcast on Grass Valley Television, division of Rural County's television network, whose focus is on community involvement. We also air on NCTV. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us. GVTV News. In today's first world news story, tens of thousands of people have rallied in Moscow to honor the slain opposition leader Boris Nemtsov, a former deputy prime minister turned dissident politician. Nemtsov was shot to death Friday night near Red Square. Speaking just hours before in what would be his final interview, Nemtsov had accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of authoritarian rule, and he had said, we need political reform in the country when all the power is concentrated in the hands of one person, and when that person rules internally, it will all end up in absolute catastrophe. The main question people ask us is, are you inviting to join the march? And I answer, if a lot of people come, something will change. Weeks before his death, Nemtsov reportedly told Russian news site he feared Putin wanted him dead. Putin has condemned the murder and vowed to find the perpetrators. Nemtsov has been set to lead Sunday's rally in protest to Russia's economic policies in the Ukraine. An estimated crowd of 50,000 people marched past the Kremlin carrying signs reading, "I am not afraid." Secretary of State John Kerry is meeting with Russia's counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Geneva to discuss the conflict in Ukraine. The meeting comes just days after Kerry publicly accused Russian officials of lying to his face about the military support for separatist rebels. Russia and Ukraine are also holding direct talks in Brussels to resolve the dispute over delivery of Russian gas. The United States says today's death toll tops 6,000. Recent ceasefire continues to hold after a shaky start. And Iraq has launched a new military operation to retake the city of Tikrit from the self-proclaimed ISIS. Thousands of Iraqi forces and his militia fighters have converged on the city of Samarra to strike nearby ISIS strongholds. The United States is expected to provide air support, part of a continued bombing campaign. The offensive comes as the Iraqi military prepares for a major U.S.-backed operation to retake Mosul from ISIS in the coming weeks. And opposition groups in Syria have rejected the UN plan for a temporary ceasefire in the northern city of Aleppo. UN envoy Staffan de Mistura recently won a pledge from a regime of Bashar al-Assad to stop attacks in Aleppo for up to 6 weeks, but Aleppo's Revolutionary Council says it will not meet with Mistura and propose comprehensive solution based on Assad's removal from power, unless he's removed from power. Islamic State, Islamic Muslim terrorists, have reportedly freed 21 Assyrian Christians kidnapped in Syria, but more than 200 Assyrians are said to still remain in ISIS captivity following its raids on more than a dozen villages last week. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has arrived in Washington for a trip armed at stopping the nuclear deal with Iran. Netanyahu is set to address with pro-Israeli lobby group AIPAC, which he did. His visit comes just as Iran and 6 world powers, including the United States, are set to resume talks and bid on a very shaky March 31st deadline. We will have more on this. Well, we will find out what happens. The Democrats have shunned the whole thing and are absolutely not even going to listen to him. Hundreds of people have rallied in West Bank to mark a pair of anniversaries in Palestinian struggle against Israel. On Friday, demonstrators gathered in Hebron to mark the 20th anniversary of the massacre of 29 Palestinian worshippers by U.S.-born settler Baruch Goldstein. Protesters also marched to the village of Bilan to mark the 10th anniversary of the village campaign against Israel's separation wall, which carves up the West Bank to divide Palestinian land and annex the major Jewish settlements blocks. This wall was put up to protect Israeli citizens from terrorist Hamas suicide bombings and other atrocities against them. An Egyptian court has upheld a decision deems Palestinian group Hamas a terrorist organization. This move will further strain ties between Egypt and Hamas, which rules the Gaza Strip on the Egyptian's northern border. Hamas has called the decision shocking and dangerous. Hamas could react no longer accepting Egypt as a broker with Israel, a role that most recently played during the assault in Gaza last summer. Venezuela has announced the arrest of an unspecified number of Americans in charge of espionage, at least some of whom were reportedly being released and left in the country. Speaking at a rally, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said the suspects were trying to stoke anti-government political sentiment and said, "We've detected activity. We have captured some U.S. citizens in undercover activities and hidden activities, espionage, trying to win over people in towns along the Venezuelan coast, trying to win over the people in some neighborhoods. In Takari, we captured a pilot of a U.S. plane of Latin origin with all sorts of documentation." Maduro also announced new restrictions on the number of U.S. diplomats allowed in Venezuela and rule changes that will subject Americans to the same visa requirements Venezuelans face in the United States. Maduro has also unveiled a list of American politicians barred from entering Venezuela in response to U.S. sanctions against Venezuelan officials last year. Maduro has repeatedly accused right-wing opponents of fomenting a coup with U.S. support. White House has denied the charges, but said last week it's considering tools to steer the Venezuelan government in the direction they should be headed. United States and Cuba have held second-round talks as part of an effort to restore full diplomatic ties for the first time in more than a half-century. After meeting in Washington, the heads of the U.S. delegation, Roberta Jacobson, said the two sides could reopen embassies in time for a regional meeting next month. The head of the Cuban delegation, Josefina Vidal, said Cuba expects the United States to remove it from the State Department's list of counties sponsoring international terrorism. Jacobson said, "We can get this done in time for the Summit of the Americas, and I certainly think this kind of cooperation that we have today, I certainly leave those conversations today optimistic, but committed to recognizing the work that still has to be done." Vidal said, "It's a priority for Cuba that we hope is addressed and is solved in the process towards reestablishment of diplomatic relations because, as I already said, it would be very difficult to say that we have reestablished relations with our country still on a list that we believe very, very firmly that we have never belonged to and we do not belong to." Uruguay has sworn in Tabar Vasquez as the new president. Vasquez previously served in the post of 2005 to 2010 when his leftist ally and now outgoing president, Jose Mujica, replaced him. Mujica, a former guerrilla fighter, leaves office after a term that included legalization of marijuana, abortion, and same-sex marriage. Chose to live in a modest one-story home instead of presidential palace. Famously donated 90% of his salary to the charity that earned Mujica the nickname World's Poorest President. A large crowd gathered in Bangladesh capital of Dhaka on Sunday to honor the Bangladeshi American blogger killed in a brutal attack. Avit Roy, a U.S.-born citizen in Bangladesh, was walking home from a book fair when machete-wielding assailant hacked him to death. Roy's wife and fellow blogger, Rafida Ahmed, was left seriously wounded. Roy's family said Islamic extremists recently threatened him with speaking out against religious fundamentalism. I guess that's what it was. Congress has averted a partial shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security just hours before the agency was set to lose its funding. On Friday, lawmakers approved a stopgap measure keeping DHS open for another week. House Democrats helped approve the bill hours after far-right Republicans revolted against the 3-week funding measure brought by House Speaker John Boehner. Republicans have sought to tie DHS money to reversing Obama's executive action on immigration. Boehner has reportedly promised Democrats that a clean, long-term funding bill without immigration provisions will reach the House floor this week. Los Angeles police have shot and killed a homeless man in an encounter caught on video and viewed millions of times online. Footage shows police wrestling a man to the pavement and deploying a laser. In the foreground, a woman who tries to pick up the officer's baton is also wrestled to the ground. Voice in the background appears to yell, "Drop the gun," before at least 5 shots are heard. A warning. This footage is graphic. The man, identified by witnesses as Africa, was pronounced dead at the scene. Police say they opened fire after a struggle over an officer's gun. One witness described his account of the shooting and said about 5 officers wrestled down to the ground. He managed to get up. They took him down again. Then they beat him while he was on the ground. Next thing I knew, I heard 1 shot, and I looked over and across the street, and I seen 3 more shots being fired at the guy who was laying down on the ground. Los Angeles police say they are investigating. And dozens of people have rallied in Chicago outside a secretive police facility tied to the abuse and mistreatment of prisoners. The Guardian revealed last week the Chicago police have used a nondescript warehouse known as Homan Square to conduct detentions and interrogations. Prisoners were allegedly denied access to their attorneys, beaten, and held up to 24 hours without official record of their detention. On Saturday, a group of demonstrators gathered at Homan to demand an investigation and the facility's closure. One protester said, "When you become officers, you become public servants, not an extension of a military branch of the state. We are not the enemy." And another protester said, "Mr. Mayor, we demand an immediate, impartial investigation of the Homan Square. We demand that you shut down this facility, at least so far as taking any accused people here. There are plenty of people lockups better than monitored than this one around the city." And local activists have organized another rally outside of Chicago to pay compensation to the victim of longtime police abuse. And that's it for World News Today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. That's right, it's time for the police spotter, and pictures in the blotter not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. These public records are obtained from daily logs issued from Nevada County law enforcement. Grass Valley Police Department on Friday, 7:18 a.m., a caller from 1300 block of East Main Street reported two transients sleeping inside a Masonic building across from the police department. In 10:35 a.m., a caller from 600 block of Freeman Lane reported a man inside a laundromat trying to solicit female employees. 12:14 p.m., a caller from 600 block of Escaton Circle reported subjects going into homes and shutting off the power breakers. At 4:38 p.m., a caller from 400 block of Colfax Avenue reported a driver harassing a school bus driver, pulling up to the bus and flipping off the driver and students. And 7:28 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Neal Street reported a customer that didn't want to pay for groceries. 7:50 p.m., a caller from the corner of Brunswick Road and Nevada City Highway reported a female in her underwear dancing around in the intersection. And 10:24 p.m., a caller from the corner of Highway 49 and Cerrito Road reported a drunken driver crossing over the fog line. And Saturday, 7:49 a.m., a caller from 500 block of Whiting Street reported all four tires were slashed on their car. 9:51 a.m., a woman from 200 block of Mill Street reported that her tires were slashed when her car was parked in a parking lot. And 12:44 p.m., a caller from the corner of Sierra College Drive and East Main Street reported being hit by a drunk driver. And 4:06 p.m., a woman from 200 block of Sutton Way reported a man is with her making her mad while she is trying to watch TV. And 5:15 p.m., a woman from the corner of South Auburn and Bank Street reported a wallet was stolen when she was in a parking lot. And 6:31 p.m., a woman from 200 block of Sutton Way reported that she called screaming death threats. 7:09 p.m., a caller from the corner of Ophir Street and Colfax Avenue reported a subject setting off paper lanterns and have flames inside of them and were landing in trees. And a woman at 8:35 p.m. from 400 block of Henderson Street reported a man knocked on her door and asked if he could see her breasts. Sunday, 2:17 a.m., a woman from 100 block of Ophir Street reported her daughter's boyfriend broke out the front window of her house. And 2:48 a.m., a man from 200 block of Dorsey Drive reported he was suicidal and was had cut his wrists and is bleeding. In Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Friday, 8:42 a.m., a man from 12,000 block of North Bloomfield Granite reported bullet holes in his mailbox. 9:30 a.m., a man from 11,000 block of El Noro Drive reported his guitar had been stolen. And 10:31 a.m., a caller from the corner of Meyer Road and Highway 174 reported a decapitated deer on the driveway. And 11:48 a.m., a man from 20,000 block of Scotts Flat Road reported subjects trespassing on his property, digging up dirt and taking boulders from the property. 12:55 p.m., a man from 12,000 block of Turkey Point Circle reported his estranged wife stole his guns. And 2:46 p.m., a woman from an undisclosed location reported her son may commit suicide. And Saturday, 6:28 a.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Tom Ray Drive reported finding a black Labrador that was sprayed by a skunk. And 2:52 p.m., a caller from the corner of Harmony Estates and Bloomfield Graniteville Road reported promiscuous shooting in the area. And 5:16 p.m., a woman from 12,000 block of Four Wheel Drive reported she was trying to cook dinner but was being told she had to stop. At 9:31 p.m., a woman from 13,000 block of Auburn Road reported her neighbors shining red laser lights from their firearms into her room. On Sunday, 1:09 a.m., a caller from 18,000 block of Foxfire Way reported heavy gunfire coming from the area. At 2:43 a.m., a caller from 15,000 block of Johnson Place reported seeing a subject holding up a sign that stated "Call 911." Caller didn't stop to see what the subject needed, but went home and called 911. And that's it for the blotter today. Now, another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's local news headlines, CORE to launch new quit smoking program. In our first story here, Community Recovery Resources, or CORE, has received a $25,000 donation from CVS Health to implement a new smoking cessation program. The funds will assure that all different populations are getting the important support for smoking cessation, said Ariel Lovett, the Deputy Director of CORE, a nonprofit organization that provides substance abuse recovery services throughout Nevada and Placer counties. Lovett said the donations will allow the organization to train at least 4 of its staff members in a freedom from smoking program offered by the American Lung Association. The program is designed to help smokers gain control over their nicotine addiction through group sessions and individualized support. We know that nicotine use is very prevalent among people who are recovering from addiction to alcohol and other drugs, Lovett said. She has said smoking cessation education and support would be integrated into all the organization's programs, which include inpatient, outpatient programs for adults, families, and teens. In addition, Lovett said the organization will offer a 7-week course open to community members looking to kick their nicotine habit. Lovett said the evening course will begin in the spring. The exact dates are not yet determined, but Lovett said that anyone interested in finding out more can contact the organization's Grass Valley office for more information. CVS Health and Pharmacy Chain and Healthcare Benefits Manager, with nearly 8,000 retail stores nationwide, made headlines last October when the company pulled all tobacco products from its drugstore shelves. In November 2014, the company and its foundation committed to give out more than $1 million in grants to support tobacco prevention and cessation programs. Supporting organizations like CORE is an extension of our broader commitment to increasing access to health care and help people on their path to better health in the communities we serve, said Eileen Howard Boone, the Senior Vice President of the Corporate Social Responsibility and Philanthropy at CVS Health. Good program, quit smoking.
Crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon, I could go to space. With the air like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
Grass Valley Television brings you local and world news, and we broadcast our 30-minute show 6 times a day on NCTV, Public Access, Comcast Cable, Channel 11 and 18. Also, we're on Sudden Link, Channel 16 and 18. We have 3 amazing series: Music, a 30-minute weekly show that airs 4 times a week, and Pride, Integrity, Guts, and Service, hosted by Sheriff Keith Royal and me on a bi-monthly series, plays 4 times a week. We're your community media, and if you have a business and would like to underwrite our shows, we offer almost 200 30-second spots a month on Comcast and Sudden Link. We also stream live on NevadaCountyTV.org and video on demand there, and our own websites, GVTV.org and GrassValleyTelevision.com. We also post to several Facebook pages and YouTube, Vimeo, Blip.tv, and many other sites on the web where we mirror our shows. We provide 30-second spots and a 60-second spot for you to embed on your webpage or whatever you want to do with it. For more information, you can call us 362-8889 or email grassvalleytelevision@gmail.com. We will be happy to explain how your support of us will help us support